Good morning, fifth grade. Today we are going to read about another influential woman during the Civil War. Her name is Florence Nightingale. Before we get started, let's do our quick write. Has someone ever told you that you couldn't accomplish something? What did they tell you, and how did it make you feel? Press pause to write down your answer and play when you're ready for the focus question. How did Florence Nightingale affect medical treatment and care for soldiers? What are the long-term effects of her work? We have 3 vocabulary words. The first one is sanitary. That has to do with like clean conditions or hygiene. And so this picture would be an example of like a sanitary bathroom because it's really clean. The second word is elite. That is refers to a group that is like special and or superior to everyone else. So these people are elite. And then the last one is contaminated. That's when something becomes impure or polluted. And so we can see in this picture that the water is being contaminated by whatever gross things coming out of this pipe. Turn the page and let's get ready to read. Your biography of Florence Nightingale is on the back of your packet, so you can go ahead and rip it off so that your desk looks like my screen. And we know that with all nonfiction texts, we would ask our how or why question about the title so that we can determine the main idea. And so for my how or why question about Florence Nightingale, I wrote, why was Florence Nightingale significant? Or you could write, how did Florence Nightingale make an impact while she was alive? Press pause to write down your question and play when you're ready to read. All right, and we're going to begin reading at the top of the page all the way to the Crimean War, and we're going to do the pioneer nurse part during parallel teaching. All right, I'm at Florence Nightingale. A nurse spent her night rounds giving personal care to the wounded, establishing her image as the lady with the lamp. All right, so this tells us, already gives us an idea about what Florence Nightingale is known for, so you could go ahead and underline that as well. We're at the synopsis, which is just like an overview of her life. Florence Nightingale was born in Florence, Italy on May 12, 1820. During the Crimean War, she and a team of nurses improved the unsanitary conditions at a British-based hospital, reducing the death count by 2/3. Her writings sparked worldwide healthcare reform. In 1860, she established St. Thomas Hospital and the Nightingale Training School for Nurses. She died August 13, 1910 in London. And so when we're thinking about why she is significant or how she made an impact while she was alive, we know that she improved unsanitary conditions in hospitals that kind of changed the standards for cleanliness in hospitals around the world. And so for our main idea, we would write, Florence Nightingale worked to improve medical conditions for soldiers, resulting in saving many lives worldwide. Press pause to write down your answer and play when you're ready for number 2. We're going to read the section about her early life. And we want to know, how did Florence discover that she enjoyed helping others? And what are some obstacles she faced in pursuing her dream? We're at Florence Nightingale. Florence Nightingale was born on May 12, 1820 in Florence, Italy. She was the younger of 2 children. Nightingale's wealthy British family belonged to elite social circles. Despite her mother's interest in achieving high social status, Florence herself was reportedly awkward in social situations. She preferred to avoid being the center of attention whenever possible. Strong-willed, Florence often butted heads with her mother, whom she viewed as overly controlling. From a very young age, Florence Nightingale was active in philanthropy, which is charity work or serving others, ministering to the ill and poor people in the village neighboring her family's estate. By the time she was 16 years old, it was clear to her that nursing was her calling. She believed it to be her life's purpose. When Nightingale approached her parents and told them about her ambitions to become a nurse, they were not pleased. In fact, her parents forbade her to pursue nursing. During the Victorian era, a young lady of Nightingale's social status was expected to marry a wealthy man, not to take a job, turn the page, that was viewed as lowly skilled labor by the upper social class. When Nightingale was 17 years old, she refused a marriage proposal from a suitable gentleman, Richard Monckton Milnes, in order to pursue her dream. Determined to pursue her true calling despite her parents' objections, in 1844, Nightingale enrolled as a nursing student at the Lutheran Hospital of Pastor Fliedner in Kaiserswerth, Germany. We'll stop right there and we'll think about how to answer box 2. It says, how did Florence discover that she enjoyed helping others? And if we go back in the text to that second paragraph in the section Early Life, we know that she was always helping others in her community. And it says by the time she was 16 years old, it was clear that nursing was her calling. She believed it to be her life's purpose. And so in box 2A, we would write down, because Florence was active in philanthropy from an early age, at age 16, it was clear that nursing was her calling. You could also write down that quote for your answer. Press pause to write down your answer and play when you're ready for number 2. What early obstacles did Florence Nightingale experience while trying to pursue her dream? And if we continue reading in the next paragraph, we learn that Florence's parents were not pleased when she did not want to marry a wealthy man and be a housewife, and instead she decided to become a working woman and serve as a nurse. And so in box 2B, we could write, Florence's parents did not approve of her becoming a nurse. Instead, they wanted her to marry a wealthy man. Florence refused and enrolled in nursing school. Press pause to write down your answer and play when you're ready for box 3. And in box 3, we're going to read this section about the Crimean War, and we're going to underline the challenges that Florence faced, and we're going to think about, what does her response to these challenges reveal about what kind of person she is. We're in the early 1850s. In the early 1850s, Nightingale returned to London, where she took a nursing job in a hospital for ill governesses. Her performance there impressed her employers so much that Nightingale was promoted within just a year of being hired. The position was challenging as Nightingale struggled with a cholera outbreak and unsanitary conditions conducive to the rapid spread of disease. Nightingale made it her mission to improve hygiene or cleanliness practices, and she significantly lowered the death rate at the hospital in the process. The hard work took a toll on her health. She had just barely recovered when the biggest challenge of her nursing career presented itself. In October 1853, the Crimean War broke out. The British Empire was at war against the Russian Empire for control of the Ottoman Empire. Thousands of British soldiers were sent to the Black Sea, where supplies quickly dwindled. By 1854, no fewer than 18,000 soldiers had been admitted into military hospitals. At the time, no female nurses were stationed at the hospitals in Crimea. The poor reputation of past female nurses had led the War Office to avoid hiring more. But after the Battle of Alma, England was in an uproar about the neglect of their ill and injured soldiers, who not only lacked sufficient medical attention due to hospitals being poorly understaffed, but also suffered in horribly unsanitary and inhumane conditions. All right, so we'll stop right there and we'll think about the challenges that Florence faced as a young nurse. And that's while she was in this hospital. That's why she was in the hospital in London. And if we're going back, we know that it says that she struggled with the cholera outbreak and unsanitary conditions. And so in box 3A, we would write Florence faced a cholera outbreak and unsanitary conditions in hospitals that spread the disease. And then if we keep going, it also says that she got sick herself and barely recovered. So we would add that to 3A and say she barely recovered from the disease while she was trying to stop it in London. Press pause to write down your answer and play when you're ready for 3B. What does Florence's response to these challenges reveal about her as a person? And so if Florence is improving hygiene practices in the hospitals and saving lives, that would lead us to believe that she's determined to solve problems and help people in need. Press pause to write down your answer and play when you're ready for the video.
Florence Nightingale was a pioneer of public health and the founder of modern nursing.
Because of Florence Nightingale, nursing is one of the most regulated and respected professions in the world.
Named after her city of birth, Florence, Italy, Florence Nightingale was born on May 12, 1820, into an upper-class British family.
As a woman of her time and her class, it would have been expected that she would marry, maintain a lovely home, and be a hostess. But Florence Nightingale had very different plans. Though at the time nursing was not a respected profession, Nightingale felt very called to become a nurse.
At age 24, Nightingale defied her parents' expectations to marry a suitable match and left England to study at the Kaiserswerth Hospital in Dusseldorf, Germany.
When she returned from Germany, she took a job as a nurse at a hospital in London, and she was eventually promoted after only a year to be head of nursing there.
She improved sanitary conditions so much that she garnered a reputation as a reformer and as an advocate for public health.
During the Crimean War, the British press made public the horrendous conditions of the wounded soldiers in Turkey. The army turned to Florence Nightingale for help.
Sidney Herbert, Secretary at War, reached out directly to Nightingale. When Nightingale and her band of nurses arrived at Scutari, the hospital in the Crimea, they were shocked at what they found.
The field hospitals were positioned on cesspools of putrid water. Patients were lying in their filth. More soldiers were dying from infections than they were from wounds sustained on the battlefield.
Many of the reforms that Florence Nightingale instituted were quite revolutionary. Nightingale insisted that there be fresh air and water for all the soldiers, that recuperating soldiers receive healthy food to eat to help make them better, and that all of the bandages and sheets and blankets were adequately laundered each day.
By the time she was done, Florence Nightingale had succeeded in reducing the death rate within these military hospitals by 2/3.
Known as the Angel of the Crimea, Nightingale returned to England and received a hero's welcome, a medal from Queen Victoria, and a gift of $250,000. She devoted the rest of her life to effecting change in medical care.
In 1860, Florence Nightingale founded at St. Thomas Hospital in London the Nightingale Training School for Nurses.
She was a pioneer in the use of cutting-edge statistical methods of the time to design hospitals and medical systems to maximize the health of the community at large.
This really helped her to make her message known to the parliamentarians and government agencies who would make important decisions about hospitals and healthcare.
In In her later years, Nightingale was officially honored by Germany, France, Norway, and numerous prestigious British societies. She died at her London home on August 13, 1910.